And welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we are doing another trailer reaction. We will be returning with another full review of within the next few weeks. His moviness is getting over an illness, so just to be kind, we are just doing trailer reactions, but it's a good one. Um, Now, as y'all remember, the Super Bowl was a time where most of us could really care less about what was going on the screen, or should I say on the field, and more about the commercials and trailers that were coming out. Unless you're Lee Suchek, where let's just say the results were unsatisfactory. Lee, I do have to ask, how did you feel about Steve Wilkes being fired as the defensive coordinator?
Don't care. It's a movie review channel. Move on.
um, but out of but during that night, we did see a lot of trailers come out, and we did take a look at Deadpool and Wolverine, and today we're going to take a look at Wicked. And honestly, this came as a surprise for the both of us because Wicked, has been more of a Broadway staple than anything else. So them turning into a movie came as a surprise, but not too big of a surprise when you think about it. Um, and can I just say we're doing this as a favor to a friend of ours. So Steph, if you're watching, this trailer reaction video is for you. Hi, Steph. Um, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. And I will also add that neither one of us is too well versed in Wicked or the world of the Wizard of Oz, but we will do our best.
Not too well versed, meaning I have no idea what I'm about to watch.
Folks together
Something has changed within.
is to give them a real good enemy.
You're green. I am. Something is not the same. Something just takes over me. And when it does, bad things happen.
Once you learn to harness your emotions, the sky's the limit.
Ariana Grande.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
Those are like a prequel and a sequel to
Well,
the Wizard of Oz, because it definitely happens stuff beforehand, but then we clearly see Dorothy there, and I'm guessing that there must be something that happens afterwards. So
yeah, and viewers out there, feel free to let us know in the comments and correct our ignorance. But but Wicked itself is based on a book that was released, I want to say like in the '90s by Greg McGuire, and it goes into the origin stories of Falba, who is the Wicked Witch of the West, or in the case of this movie, becomes the Wicked Witch of the West, and it explores her origins of who she is as a person, and how she came to become this the eventual villain in the Wizard of Oz stories. Now, the books by Greg McGuire, they kind of they become a series unto themselves because you have many many other books in the series like Son of a Witch, and I think there was one story about one book about the origin of the Cowardly Lion. Um, so I will say I will say that in terms of them making it into a movie, I'm intrigued, to be honest with you, because I normally don't go for musicals. I could care less about them, but I'm curious to see like what happens in this movie. Like because for me, The Wizard of Oz has always been a very interesting story, and you and I can both attest to the fact that in November 2022, we actually did a 6-part special for the Bushwhackers called Emerald Curse, and I'll have links to that down below where we are sucked into the land of Oz and we have to liberate it from the new Wicked Witch of the West. So That was quite an interesting story, wasn't it, Lee?
Indeed. I mean, I think, like I said, like musicals have their place, and it could be very interesting. I mean, we've seen like, I mean, Hamilton is, I would say, relatively beloved as far as, kind of taking like a musical and putting it to this type of movie format. So, I mean, certainly there's a lot of positives that could come from it. So, I mean, I don't have any problems with it. It's just going to be something where it just, I guess, depends on how well that adaptation is going to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, like one of the things that I always find kind of weird is kind of like this idea of like rewriting characters and like kind of creating this like villain who's not very much a villain type of thing. And I just don't know how I'm going to feel about that until I see it, because I'm kind of getting the vibe from what little I'm seeing that, the Wicked Witch of the West is maybe not so wicked. And, I always kind of struggle with movies that try to, I think, change a character or try to create this narrative that changes the character for who they are.
Right.
So I'll be curious. And like I said, I have no idea. I don't know anything about this at all. I've seen the original Wizard of Oz. That's the extent of my knowledge with this. But that'll be interesting to see is how and what they kind of do with that.
Well, let's
for that story aspect.
Well, I was gonna say let's let's take a look at the fact that the based on this first look trailer, Afalba, or the Wicked Witch of the West, isn't really the villain per se. It's more of the wizard, right? Because
Yes. Yep.
because in the original Wizard of Oz movie, we're used to the fact that the wizard is the good guy and the Wicked Witch is the villain, right? But in this case, the roles are reversed. Now, you already mentioned how you feel about attempts to kind of tell an alternative history or try to humanize, the villain. How do you feel about about this reversal of roles? Because clearly it's the wizard. Just
For
based on the
sure,
way
yeah.
Jeff Goldblum looks.
Yeah, and like I said, like there's ways that you could pull that off narratively where it makes sense, because, like I said, we know the Wizard of Oz, right? I think both you've watched the Wizard of Oz, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
obviously,
okay.
yeah.
Just want to make sure. So, I mean, like we know that, and like I said, you could easily tell one aspect of that story, but we're really only seeing it through Dorothy's lens. So, could there just be a misunderstanding? Could there be ways of like that's just being interpreted differently? Absolutely, right? Like there's ways that you could kind of go out there and kind of make a story interesting like that. It just I think kind of has this air of like you don't want it to be like forced upon the audience that we're trying to, like you point out, like humanize, or we're trying to rationalize the villain of the story. So this come up, like I think you said, like the 90s was when this book came out that was kind of loosely how we got the Wicked musical and everything. So it's relatively recent, obviously, than the original Wizard of Oz. So it'll be interesting to see. I liked Hamilton. I think it's a fun musical, and I think that there's no reason that this can't do that. I guess I'll just go down to where they put the emphasis on doing this. Is this going to be like something where it's more about the music and the visuals? Are you trying to help like tell a story? How much of that are we going to get invested in? So a lot of different avenues that you can take with this that will have very different results depending on what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, because most film adaptations of musicals have been relatively successful. For the past few years. I mean, Mamma Mia comes to mind. Mamma Mia 2, not so much, but but for the most part, film adaptations of musicals have had a proven track record of doing pretty well in the box office. So I really don't see any reason why Wicked shouldn't should be the outlier there. But
agreed. Totally agreed.
But
it has everything going for it. So
yeah, but at the same time, I mean, also keep in mind too. I mean, this is this is the the first adaptation, or not adaptation, but first movie set in the Oz universe since Oz the Great and Powerful from 2013. That's like 11 years ago when you think about it, and there really hasn't been any other movie set in Oz, in between those years. So it is going to be pretty interesting to see how how they approach the subject of what Oz looks like. Because I mean, we did get a glimpse, and it does have this more steampunk vibe to it,
Sure.
with like
Yes.
the train and
Mhm.
everything. That being said, I do think Jeff Goldblum is gonna knock it out of the park as the Wizard, because if you think about it, he's already played another character who's kind of got wizard like powers, because he did play the
Yeah,
was
he
it
was
the
Malcolm in
Grandmaster.
Jurassic Park. Oh, we're going with a different one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we want to go with that, but he
No,
was the
that was a
but
joke. I was just
but
gonna
but he
right
was
here.
but he was the Grandmaster, so I
Yes.
mean, so that does work pretty well. And I was gonna say, like, any any role that you put Jeff Goldblum in, for the most part, he's gonna do pretty good. So
He's
I've
gonna play
got
himself. So
now. I will say this: I was shocked to see Ariana Grande in there. Not too
I was as
surprised.
well.
Not too
But
surprised though, but
I mean,
still,
it makes sense. Like you want to have people that could sing, right? So I think that you look at something like that. Like I think back to, the Little Mermaid that came out, like the live action one. Like, people could say whatever they want, but Halle Berry, she could absolutely sing, right? She absolutely knocked it out of the park. She's got great singing ability. So I think if you have a musical, that's what you want, because I think that's what people are going to remember the most, right? They're going to remember the music. And I think if you're focusing on that, that's where you find the success. It's like when you try to do too much with it, where you become maybe a little bit too ambitious, where you start to lose people. So I think if you focus on that, you do well. And it's funny, you mentioned um, the last movie that we got in the Wizard of Oz universe that came out in 2014.
yeah.
The movie that I'm thinking of that I constantly get worried about, where you have these villains that you try to humanize, is like Maleficent, that also came out in 2014. Where she's obviously the villain in the Sleeping Beauty thing, and then you see they try to like create this idea that, oh, she really wasn't that bad of a person, like
No,
she's
she was bad. Like she was still bad. Like
nah,
uh,
it's okay, but they in the movie, right? They definitely try to give her a different air. That, oh, she was tricked, and she trusted someone that ripped off her wings. Like they absolutely made her character to be more of a villain that became a villain because of the terrible things that are going on around her. So that's just one of those things where I get leery about when you're trying to like bring up these classics like The Wizard of Oz, Sleeping Beauty, where you're trying to like retell some of these classic characters, and then you're trying to maybe do something a little bit different. So I just hope that that's not a route that they go down, because I don't feel like it's going to hit with the audience the way that you want to hit it with it. So if you focus
yeah,
on
I
the music, you
yeah,
focus on the
I'll
fun
go with
visuals,
that.
like you said, I think that's what is really going to separate this, or this is what could get people to pay attention.
So less on story, more on music, you would
Yeah,
say?
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a story driven movie, or at least I hope it's not. And you're just focusing on those other aspects, right? Like, that's what we want to see.
Well, my concern is that is that Wicked in itself isn't too much of a dark story. Like it gives us the origins of the Wicked Witch of the West, but it's not this like dark gothic steampunk kind of thing that we got in Maleficent, where even by Disney standards, it was pretty dark. I mean, like I mean, there were points where you're wondering, where it's like, wow, like should kids really be watching? This is like, it just went down like it went down a rabbit hole that was just really, really, really weird.
Yeah.
So
And I
so
didn't want
so I mean,
to.
you can do it, but you
Mhm.
kind of have to have a limit as to how I guess how far do you want to go in terms of the darkness?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely some of that. Now, did you? I just wanted to bring up one thing really quick. Did you mention that musicals have a really good track record? Have you ever heard of a musical failing that got an adaptation for film?
I remember they did a sequel to Mamma Mia that didn't do too good.
Yeah, I was thinking of Cats.
Oh yeah, that's right, Cats. Yeah. Okay,
Oh my
I
gosh.
amend my I amend my statement. for the most part.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yes. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I remember there being a terrible bomb that
It was so. Well, I'll say this: it was so bad. I blotted it out from my memory. So
No, that's fair. I think a lot of people did as well. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, it could absolutely be a ton of fun. You focus on the music, you focus on the visuals, and like I said, kind of put some of that other stuff to the side because it's not. I think it's not what people are going to want to go see when they see that.
well, another thing too, because I mean, I'll just bring up Cats again. I mean, Cats visually was just weird, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, there really wasn't anything wrong with the cast per se. It's just the way that they did it, they presented it. It was just so jarring and so out of place. It was like you couldn't get over the fact that these were people in cat costumes, right? It didn't make sense. Whereas in Wicked, for the most part, oh, you got a green skinned person. Okay, I can go with that. Or you've got Ariana Grande in a blonde wig. All right, I can go with that. Or you got Jeff Goldblum with a really weird mustache. All right, yeah, I'll roll with that because because it's a little bit odd, but it's not jarring, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
yeah, no, absolutely. So, and like I said, for all I know, maybe the story is really good and people know it really well. Like, there's just so much they can do with it. So, only time will tell. But I think with it being a musical, I think it's could get a lot of kind of extra attention and obviously a very popular one. So I think it's going to definitely get people's attention. So hopefully it's more on the Hamilton side of things and less on the Cat side of things.
Yeah, exactly. But it is Hollywood, so. But yeah, but that movie doesn't come out until later on this year in November. So we got plenty of time to chew on that. But let us know down in the comments below what you think. If you think Wicked's going to be one of the best movies of 2024, or if you have some concerns and you think it's going to go down the route of Cats, as Lee thinks. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Why did I
And
say it was gonna be more like Cats? That's shenanigans. Also, fun fact.
Yeah.
Did you know it's gonna be a two-parter?
No, I did not. No.
Well, guess what? It's gonna be a two-parter. So that's another interesting thing that I guess we'll throw in there as we're closing out really quick. Gonna be a two-parter. So
Well, there you go.
I don't know how I feel about that. I guess at least they're not gonna try to cram everything into one. I guess so.
Yeah, you don't want to make the same mistake that Ridley Scott did with Napoleon and try to put everything into a 2-hour time slot. And
Yep. Or
ruin
M. Night
it.
Shyamalan trying to cram in everything into Avatar: The Last Airbender. So
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of good examples don't do that stuff.
Exactly. But yeah, let us know down in the comments below what you think. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next review. Take it easy.